Tony. How
With
can you
Tony
not get
2.
that right?
Because I took a fucking edible and I'm fucked up now. But I was good like quarter of the way in. It started to hit me. All right, we gotta go. We gotta go. Everybody, grab my keys and get the hell out of here.
Hey, did you ever see that movie? Did you ever see that movie? Did you ever see that movie?
Welcome to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your hostess, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely little co-host, Lynn.
Paradise Lost. Found it.
And joining us again, the podcaster with a degree in terror, Tony.
Hey, how's it going?
Tonight, we will be discussing the 2006 horror comedy Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Written and directed by Scott Glosserman. Written by David Steve and Scott Glosserman. Starring Nathan Beazle, Angela Gothos, Robert Englund, and Zelda Rubinstein. As always, this podcast will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, then come back and listen to the podcast. All right, please take a moment to like and subscribe and comment if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple, please leave a 5-star review. We all know none of you are going to do any of that, and I'd like to thank you in advance. Yes. Okay. Next week, we will be discussing Robert Rodriguez's Desperado, starring Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, and we're going out with Mikki and Tony 2.0. So, there you go. I'm announcing that a little earlier in the show now for all you people that don't stick around to the end. So, there you go. If you'd like to watch the movie so you can follow along with the podcast, you now have the information. So, do with it as you will. Okay, let's do some opening thoughts on this one. I will get us started. I have never even heard of this movie before today. Much like most of you, I'm guessing, unless you are a diehard horror movie fan. So the question is, was it any good? Let's find out. Delyn, were you a big fan of this movie before preparing for the podcast?
No, like you, I had never even heard of it. I had no idea what I was in for at all. So This was all fresh and brand new to me.
And Tony, how many million times have you seen this movie?
I have watched it quite a bit since I first heard about it. I saw it at a festival and it blew me away. So I figured, this needs to get more love again. So let's see if they see how you guys like it. Let's see what happens.
Cool. Hopefully this one will get as many views as Brain Scan, another obscure movie that we reviewed that surprisingly got a shitload of views. So maybe the magic will strike twice. Let's do some movie facts. I just got one. Leslie's real surname is exposed to be Mancuso. Frank Mancuso Jr. was the producer of most of the Friday 13th movies. So there you go. A little tip of the hat to the producer of the Friday the 13th movie.
It goes further than that.
Oh, well, take us down the road.
So Mancuso is also the last name of Nick Mancuso, who is the uncredited actor who portrayed Billy in 1974 Black Christmas.
Oh, Billy.
No, Billy. But also, it didn't come out in the way that they shot the film, but initially Eugene, the mentor, was intended to be the older version of Billy.
I think I would have liked that.
Yep. There's a lot of nods to classic horror in here. I mean, like, the car from the Sam Raimi movies is in it. There's a puzzle box from Hellraiser in it. There's so much.
The big thing that I thought was interesting, I watched a bunch of the makings of and the behind the scenes stuff on the Blu-ray. And the thing that I thought was interesting is really where the writer got his idea for it. Is he was out in Hollywood for a while and he was just ready to give up. And he got a call from his dad. Dad's like, "Hey, how's things going out there?" He's like, not good. And he just happened to zone out talking to his dad. Halloween was on. And he stopped to think, like, what does Michael Myers do if this killing thing didn't work out? Like, let's go back to selling insurance. Like, what does he do? Like, what does Jason do on Saturday the 14th? Is it the day after Christmas for him? So he started thinking like that. If this was all real life, what would they do in the off time? And they have to prep. So they get ready for next. Kind of like Santa spends all year making toys. You got to train all year for your big day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what took him down. He said it was the fastest script he's ever written, and it took him like 2 weeks to get this out, and it just all really just came together really quickly.
Cool. Yeah, really interesting concept. All right. With a box office budget of $250,000 and a whopping box office gross of just $69,000, this was considered a flop in the studio. I mean, Jesus, my fucking condo cost more than it made to cost to do this entire movie, and the box office gross is roughly the price tag of a new Dodge Ram. So there you go. All right, I did put together a fast five for Tony because I know you enjoy doing them. Hopefully, it will. Hopefully, it will be good. So this one is going to be called Soundtrack Showdown:
Ooh.
Sounds of Murder. They give you two. I'm going to give you two soundtracks. You're just going to tell me which one is better. Number one, we've got The Shining by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind.
The Shining.
Or
there's
what?
Nothing better.
Okay,
Nothing
well,
better.
or Christine by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth.
The Shining.
Shining. Okay.
Shining is like the gold standard for next to Suspiria. The Shining is the top of the list. Suspiria,
Okay.
Shining, and Jaws. So if those are anywhere in here, they're gonna win.
Okay. Number two, Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust by Riz Ortolani, or Videodrome by Howard Shore.
Videodrome. I'm a huge whore for synth. I love 80s synth. And Howard Shore uses it like no one else.
Awesome. Number three, Halloween by John Carpenter, or The Thing by Ennio Morricone.
Oh, that's like Sophie's choice right there. They're both Carpenter. I gotta go Halloween because it's more iconic.
Okay. Number four, Candyman by Philip Glass, or The Omen by Jerry Goldsmith.
Dude, that's a good one. The Omen. There's nothing more powerful than listening to the Omen soundtrack as it rises and the crescendo is happening in it. But the music box eeriness of Candyman is amazing. I gotta go with the Omen though. I mean, the Omen is just phenomenal.
I was thinking about Candyman maybe for an upcoming review. I don't think I've ever seen it, but it's an interesting concept.
Oh, it's good.
Murder in the Hood. Okay. Number five, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper and Wayne Bell, or Day of the Dead by John Harrison.
I gotta go Day of the Dead just because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre only has noises. There's no real soundtrack to it. Okay. It's off-putting and it's disturbing on its own, but I don't consider it a soundtrack. Even though Waxworks is putting out a deluxe edition, I'm dying to hear what's on it, but I gotta go with Day of the Dead because again, synth horror.
I would really like to review the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I really remember it being just groundbreaking, cutting edge, ultra horror, scary as fuck, man.
Twist my arm.
Would love to revisit that and see if it is actually as scary as I remember it being. Okay, let me give you a little synopsis. The next great killer and psychopath is given a documentary film crew exclusive access to his life as he plans his reign of terror over the quiet town of Glen Echo. There you go.
Yeah, that was intense.
It was.
A young woman is taking the trash out behind a diner and is silently being stalked by a shadowy figure. Then the movie shifts to being shot as a documentary set in the real world where the supernatural killers depicted in famous slasher films are actually real. A female journalist named Taylor Gentry walks us through a short history of these supernatural serial killers before arriving at the house of Leslie Vernon, a man that is on the precipice of joining the ranks of Myers, Voorhees, and Krueger. Leslie seems friendly and affable despite his plans to become a living nightmare. He takes Taylor and her camera crew to his childhood home where he murdered his father and mother after years of abuse. The townsfolk threw him over the falls for his crimes, and Leslie has been hiding out since then, planning his revenge. I like the opening scene in this documentary style. The world it inhabits is clever. You know, these people are real. Like, Krueger really exists. The use of Kane Hodder as one of the neighbors is super funny, and it's an in-joke for those who know who he is. And the conversation about keeping turtles because he can eat them was gross, but it reminds you that this is not a normal guy, even though he's acting kind of friendly and nice.
Nice. Well, you've just basically said every note I had, so we could just move on to the next set. So I wrote my notes as I was watching the movie this week. Sometimes I like to do this if I haven't seen the movie to kind of just see if I'm reading it the way it's intended to be read. Um, we get this super familiar opening scene. We see the waitress. She's being watched, POV by an unseen person. It has a little different feel than the classic slasher flick, but you can see what he's going for. And I'm excited to see where this thing is going to go because I know right off the bat I'm not watching Halloween or Friday the 13th. We meet Taylor. Like Delyn said, she's, narrating a documentary. I love this narration. It's bringing the best movie killers into this universe, like Delyn said, as if they were real people. And for a nice touch, we even get all the iconic houses and we even see a spooked neighbor, right? So that's pretty cool. I mean, it was a brilliant play and it had me engaged right from the start. I wasn't exactly sure what I was watching. Is this a universe where these people live? Is this a snuff film? Is this a documentary? Is this a bunch of actors that are staying in character? I don't know. Finally, we meet Leslie Vernon, and this is where the tone of the movie was revealed to me. The comedic banter and timing between Leslie and Taylor, it's brilliant in this movie. And like Delyn said, we get lines like, I only keep pets I can eat, referring to the turtles. And the line is delivered great, but what the payoff is the way that Taylor makes the facial expression like, what? Like, what did he just say? I thought it was really good. I actually laughed out loud at that line. And it wasn't the first time I laughed out loud in the movie, and it wouldn't be the last time. I really like the tone of this movie right out of the get.
Yeah, I again, when I first started, I'm like, all right, we're just getting another by the numbers slashers here. Starts out, full, widescreen setup. You get the spooky music. You got the usual, the waitresses comes out to put the trash in the dumpster. All the things we've seen all the time before. But then it switches and goes full frame and handheld and switches to a documentary. I love that they did that back and forth so you know what's part of the real world and what's part of the universe that they're creating. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's what, even the sound got better, the quality got better, the colors got better. Everything became a quote movie when he was performing his killing acts. But yet anytime anyone else was talking, total documentary, total shaky, audio's in and out. It's not perfect. Characters, amazing. The guy who plays Leslie Vernon is so good at and so much of this dialogue, well, I shouldn't say so much, a lot was improvised. They were literally writing it as, unfortunately, it was, as you saw, no budget. So they were literally writing the script as they were going, adjusting things like, all right, we don't have this location, so let's change the scene and we'll change the dialogue so it fits the scene. And they just went with it. And everybody has such great chemistry, especially the documentary interviewer and Leslie. Everybody was played so good off each other. It was so well done. As far as the turtles go, and I picked up on one of them, but I actually had to stop and research the other one. The turtles' names are Zoe and Church, which are the two animals from Pet Sematary series. Church is the cat in the first one. Zoe's the one in Pet Sematary 2. I'm like, another nod. It's like, there's so many for geeks like me to go, oh, I know that. I'm DiCaprio on the couch pointing to the TV, So, I mean, this movie was such a blast from the first 10 minutes all the way to the end. There's very few things I'm not going to go off about in this. It's so good.
I'll tell you, one thing that I really have to tip my hat to the director is this does not feel like a movie that was shot on a $250,000 budget. If you told me this was $9 million, I'd believe it. He did such a great job of juggling between the handheld camera and the actual cinematic shots. And I don't know if perhaps they saved money on the budget doing that. I don't know. Maybe it's cheaper to film that way, but he juggled it perfectly and it never felt cheap or like a tool they used to shrink the budget down to a workable scale. I thought it looked fucking great.
I mean, the fact that the script was so good, it's literally what sold Robert Englund on it. Mm-hmm. And then they got, Zelda from Poltergeist, and they got Scott Wilson from The Walking Dead. I mean, those are good names.
Yeah.
To add to a little movie like this, because all of them read the script and I'm like, damn, this is smart, because there's nothing else like this except for Scream that's come out in America. Anything that's self-referential, that plays by the rules. I mean, there's another movie, which I'll introduce later in our podcast, called The Last Horror Movie, which is another one of my top 10 unknown movies that everyone should fucking see because it's just beautiful. Again, it's shot almost the same thing as this, but it's all serious. It's not jokey. It comes across everything they did in this. The budget went towards this movie, and it really shows. They worked every angle they could to make it perfect.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely has flavors of Cabin in the Woods, Scream, but it's presented in such an original way that those are just flavors. Like I don't feel like he's ever borrowing hard or ripping it off. Like this for me kind of like it really was its own thing. It was another one of these situations. You bring this kind of obscure horror movie to the podcast, and I watch it, and I go, "Wow, this is really its own thing. It's something I don't think I've ever seen before." And the funny thing is normally when that happens, it's a very low budget movie that I've never heard of, which I think sometimes forces the directors and the writers to try harder because they know they don't have the budget to sell their story. They're like, we're gonna have to like do this and make it special with our talents and not with our budget.
So I mean, Scream came out in what, 96, I think.
Yeah,
Feels
around the
right.
mid-90s.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, and this came out when? I'm trying to think.
2006,
All right.
2003, somewhere.
Yeah, 2006. So yeah, Scream definitely beat it to the punch, but again, it didn't follow the same. Scream had the rules of surviving a horror movie. This had the rules of being a killer, and so
Yeah.
it flipped the other aspect of it. It's like, this is how you survive. Oh no, this is how you kill in a horror movie. This is how I can appear like I'm walking and still beat you to the tree.
Yes.
When you get
Dude. There's so many scenes like that are literally like something right out of like Spies Like Us, where the two Russian agents that are posing as American agents that, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy say, "Can we go take a leak?" They're in the middle of the desert in a Jeep. They get out, they're walking like, away from the Jeep. You can see the two agents sitting in the Jeep. And, Dan Aykroyd says, we've fallen right into enemy hands. They look up and the two agents are standing right in front of them. Like it's slapstick comedy. I mean,
yeah,
it's fucking phenomenal.
And he gives good reasons for all of it. It's like, it's all about cardio. I got to work on my cardio all the time. It's like, how hard it is to appear like I'm walking and still be able to catch up to these kids.
Yeah.
It's like, they're young. I'm in my 20s. Like, come on, I can't do this. And he gives reasons. And again, the same way Cabin in the Woods gave you the whys that the group has chosen, this does as well.
Yeah.
It's like, there's my bread and butter right here. It's like, I need the stoners over there. I pad my numbers with the stoners because they can't run fast. The jocks in there, they put up a fight, so you got to be ready.
Yeah. Even more cleverly than that stuff, though. Even more cleverly than like in Scream, where it's like, always never break away from the group. Girls getting laid always get killed. I mean, this goes 10 steps further. 10 steps further, and we'll get into it. So
Leslie runs Taylor through his preparations and his plan. He explains just how he knows when a girl is a virgin and how he selects his victim group. Next, he enlists Taylor into helping him scaring Kelly, the girl he has chosen to be his survivor girl. They play some cat and mouse games with her to make her paranoid, including the scene we saw at the start of the movie in the alley behind the diner. Leslie takes Taylor and the camera crew to meet his mentor, Eugene, and his wife, Jamie. Jamie says that Gene is in the tank out back and she's forgotten to go rouse him, so Taylor accompanies Leslie to dig him up. He's been playing dead for 3 days now, lowering his heart rate and breathing to appear dead, which is something Leslie claims is very important so that they can appear dead before rising again later. They have a meal with the couple discussing Leslie and his plans. Seeing a slasher film from the point of view of the killer in this context is so different from pretty much every other movie in the genre. The scene with him working out because of the extreme cardio you guys were just talking about is frigging hilarious. He's losing his breath, but he's trying to build up that stamina. He's not only friendly, but he's cheerful. And he's breaking the normal tropes about a killer, because you think of like Jason Voorhees on his off day. You don't think he's like hanging out reading comic books. You think he's, sharpening his knives. So I found all this really entertaining.
It's really good. I mean, next we get Leslie's training for his murder marathon, and it's so good. I'm just getting into this movie, and the flavor is being revealed to me, and I'm loving it. And like Tony said, I'm loving this actor in this part. I do have a really great recast later of an actor that I think could have pulled this off really well. And again, we get this new idea from the director of how to present a slasher flick. And unlike Scream and these, this one has a more old school slasher flick feel to it. Like we get a lot of shots, like some of the outside shots that remind me of like um The Strangers, right? We're gonna get some of these like darker scenes that make this just feel a little bit more horror movie than movies like Scream or like more like a teen movie. Um, Feels super fresh and fun to me. Like I said before, the on-screen chemistry between Nathan Basil and Angela Gothis, whatever her name is, super charming and fun. These two, they played so well off each other. Um, Next, we get Leslie explaining the different phases of starting a killing spree to Taylor. This is where it felt a little like a play on Scream, but with an original flavor. Again, the comic banter between Leslie and Taylor. We get more lines like a potato, potato. I mean, I'm laughing out loud. It's fucking funny. Um, Throughout the movie, Nathan sets up the lines and Angela knocks him down with facial expressions. They go back to this over and over and over again, and it's magical. These two just had that chemistry you want to see on screen. And if you're trying to do a satire play on horror, and these lines are clever, like Tony said, the script is really, really good, and I was having fun with it. We get our first setup in the movie when Leslie tells Taylor he's already picked out his virgin final girl. This had me trying to figure out who it is, and I didn't have to wait long before I was given an answer. He says it's going to be the waitress from the opening scene. And I told you, I wrote this as I was watching the movie. And at that time, I couldn't help to think, no, it's going to be Taylor. Like I knew it was going to be Taylor the whole time. Wasn't projected, but it was too obvious that it was going to be the waitress. And this is the girl that's close to him. Then we see the opening scene from Leslie's perspective. Oh, it was so clever. It got me fully engaged when he shows how the brick was moved with the string. And we're seeing the entire first scene of the movie played from behind the curtain. I fucking loved it. I loved it. And I quickly need to mention the scene where Leslie introduces Taylor to Eugene and Jamie for two reasons. First, we get the explanation of how the classic slasher plays dead, right? So, I mean, we're always like, how did I know? Okay, great. So he knows that this is a fucking trope that people get all angry with all the time. And second, we get this brilliant shot of Leslie's face reflecting in the butcher knife on the table. Oh, it's such a great shot, followed by an even better sequence where Eugene shows his knife skills presented in heavy satire, leaving Leslie literally laughing out loud, and me too. You get the, and then it goes back and it's like the knife is stuck in and the fucking shit is like Chef Ramsay style fucking Julian. It's fucking amazing.
Dialogue, acting, facial expressions, everything came out exactly the way you wanted to in a movie like this. Like you said, seeing it from the killer's point of view, you get both sides of it. So you're instantly thinking back to every slasher you've ever seen, going, "Oh, there's that part, there's this part. How else would they have done that?" You start to create your own with things you've seen before. And as the movie goes on, you're getting more and more explanation of these tropes that we've become so familiar with in every slasher movie. I absolutely love Scott Wilson in this role. The fact that he's still not really trusting of the interviewer. He's like, "Are we sure we're going to really talk about this? I mean, we're giving away some secrets here." And I love the fact that she does push sometimes, asking certain questions, and they're like, "No, you're not ready for this." And they never really give us an answer because they're obviously things that shouldn't be answered because there's really no explanation for it. But yeah, just the Scott Wilson being the mentor to him and filling in the gaps of, well, did you do this? You have your location, you have your lore, you have your, we haven't gone to Ahab yet, but we'll do that in a little bit. But I mean, just, you got your person picked out. It's like by the numbers, Scott Wilson knows, hey, this is what you have to do. And he's already 10 steps ahead. You saying you knew it was the interviewer, I didn't the first time I saw it because I figured
I didn't.
This movie is way too, it's not smart enough to do that. I knew it was a smart movie as it went along, but the reveal when that finally happens, I just sat there going, this is fucking brilliant. But again, when that happens, we'll talk about it. Yeah. So, I mean, I was totally along for the ride. I figured we're going to go for the Virgin. We're going to go for the Friends. It's by the numbers. It's every slasher we've watched to this point by the numbers. So I didn't see that twist coming. But the fact that they did it,
I fucking patted myself on the back at the end when it was the actual reveal. And you know what? I mean, you review 150 movies and it just changes the way you watch movies. You know what I mean? You can't help it. It's almost like I peek behind the curtain and now I can't fucking not see it. And the wife, Tony, right? So this couple, they're presented as, the wholesome mom and pop and that's the whole fucking fun of the scene is that they're these wholesome, sweet people, but what they're talking about, the man's, retired career is fucking being a murderer and a killer. And I love the wife, like, don't you think it might be better if she went for somebody that's maybe not directly, with her, maybe, I don't know, a librarian or something? And I'm like, this is so cool because the wife has picked up some of the tricks along the way from her husband after murdering hundreds of people. I love it. I love it.
So good.
Taylor says she wants to talk to Kelly, and Leslie forbids her, as it would ruin his plans. Later, they walk the family farm as he explains how the night's going to go, who will be killed, and how. He explains how he rigged any of the farm tools around to break, he's scrooged windows shut, and he's cut branches from trees to break away if anyone tries to use them to climb out a window. It's time for the first strike, and Leslie takes Taylor to the library where Kelly often stays late to study. There, he plants an article for Kelly to find which ties her, through a fictional relative, to the Vernon family. As she's researching the article, Leslie kills the kind librarian before he is stopped by a man in a trench coat wielding a gun who appears to know him. His name is Doc Halloran, and he forces Leslie to flee. These scenes with the two horror movie heavy hitters, Zelda Rubinstein as the librarian, Freddy Krueger as himself, Robert Englund as the disgraced doctor in an overcoat. It's so Halloween. It's so ridiculous, and I love it. They're both fantastic, as you would expect. This ended up being Zelda Rubinstein's last movie, which is sad because she was an institution of herself. And, it was a small scene for her, but I'm sure that's pretty much all she could handle, at that age. And she was a delightful little Easter egg. So I was glad to have her.
Yeah, this is where I get like super impressed with the writing of the movie. I thought this fucking library scene was over the top clever. I love this library scene as Leslie explains the plot of the movie and how he's fabricated the backstory to draw Kelly into her role as the victim. Oh, it's so good. It's really good. It's very, very clever. And you couple that with Tangina Behrens from Poltergeist recalling the story of the bastard child named Leslie Vernon who was drowned and eaten by turtles. And finally, we get Freddy Krueger basically playing the part of Dr. Samuel Loomis and Leslie Vernon standing in as Michael Myers. This scene was fucking pure magic. I absolutely loved it. I loved it.
All that.
Yeah.
The fact that, Zelda Rubinstein put on, as she put it in one of the makings, I was like, I had to put on my Poltergeist voice to explain like the slow, high pitched and the sadness to get the story. It's like, and then he went over the falls. It's like, oh my God, that is Tangy. It is, she is using the voice.
Yes.
That's not her regular voice.
Yes.
And the fact that she, again, plays it so well. And it's one of those monologues that is like you're literally hanging on every word because her delivery is so fucking perfect.
So good.
It's like in the beginning of The Fog when John Houseman is telling the story by the beach. And it's just you want to hear more. It's so terrifying the way they're telling it. And again, full of shadows. I mean, we haven't even talked about, we kind of touched on it, but the cinematography in this movie, when they go to quote the film part, the story of what's going on, beautiful. Like the shadows, the lighting, they really did a great job with making it spooky and making it atmospheric. I mean, once we get to the finale and the fog and the apple orchard and the grove, it's perfect. Robert Englund coming in the Donald Pleasance outfit, and Doc Halloran. Come on, that's The Shining. That's all The Shining. We all know.
Yes.
Come on, and it's just the only complaint I will ever have about this movie is I hate his mask.
No,
that's the only thing that bugged me. I get why they just kept it very plain, very what it was. You can't really do much else. I mean, what are you going to do? Everything else has been taken.
I loved it.
But just the blue, it looks almost comical. It's a big bulbous head and
it's perfect.
But when he's putting it on, he's got the makeup on. He's making the faces in the mirror. Terrifying. Like he pulled off terrifying.
I loved it. I love the mask. I love the combination of makeup and the hard mask and the twigs in his hair and it was fun. It matched what they were trying to do here perfectly. And I thought the mask really worked in the satire comedy sections. And when the movie takes a turn and goes towards a more traditional slasher at the end, I thought that it worked both ways. It was scary and it was kind of funny in a Simple Jack way. So it worked.
It was Simple Jack.
It was Simple Jack. So let's call it a Simple Jack.
Leslie returns to Gene and shows him the video that Taylor had taken at the library, and he's thrilled that Leslie has found his Ahab. The next morning, Taylor goes to the diner where Kelly works, determined to speak to her despite Leslie's forbidding. However, Doc O'Halloran is there, and he is demanding to know what they're up to. Taylor and the crew leave only to find Leslie waiting for them at their van. He gets low-key violent, menacing to Taylor until she agrees to follow his rules going forward. The conversation they have with Halloran leads to Taylor into pressing Leslie to reveal that he's not really Leslie Vernon. He's moved there and assumed the identity. Taylor's unhappy at the deception, but ultimately decides to stick with filming the documentary. I was amused by how excited Gene and Leslie are about having an Ahab and how Taylor's all confused about it, because this gave us a really clever way to discuss what an Ahab is to the person who's watching the film that doesn't know. Right. So like explaining it to her explains it to us without it being overdone. And I appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. They do that at a few different things in this movie. The final girl, the virgin, the whole 9 yards. So back at Gene's house, Leslie shows the video and tells Gene he was shot in the shoulder but wasn't harmed because he was wearing a bulletproof vest. So this was brilliant for two reasons. The first one was, at this point in the movie, I wasn't sure if I was watching a bunch of actors staging a documentary and staying in character, like maybe that would be the twist at the end, or if I was supposed to think that this was like the real making of like a serial killer snuff film, right? And this exposition, revealing that he was wearing the bulletproof vest, really started to make me lean back towards I was watching real world murder. Even though I hadn't seen a drop of blood yet, that's what it started reeling me back in the right direction. We're going to find out, because that's what that is. So again, great storytelling. He's presenting something. I'm picking up on it. He's bringing me where he wants me to go. Secondly, and more importantly, this explains how Michael Myers took all those shots in Halloween and disappeared from the front lawn. He was wearing a fucking bulletproof vest, everybody. There you go. So now you know. This is really fun. If you understand what the director is doing, if you know, you know. And I know. And I was fucking loving it. And Tony, like you said, I'm watching this movie, but my mind is going back to visualizing scenes from great movies I've seen in the past. So while I'm watching this movie, I'm already enjoying. I'm picturing fucking Michael Myers crashing through the railing and landing on his back, and Loomis looking down and seeing him, and then getting down there and he's gone, and remembering how I felt the first time I saw that. Like, how the fuck did he get up? And that just makes me chuckle to myself that much more when the director says, well, there you go, dummy. And finally, we get Doc Halloran revealing that Leslie isn't who he says he is. This is great. We're adding a fun little subplot to this. And the danger, specifically the danger this adds to Taylor, because again, this is now just once again starting to push me in the direction I was already going, that she's going to be the final girl. And it also shows a side of Leslie we haven't seen, a much darker side. Up till now, he's been the bumbling, kind of fun guy. No, that all ends right here. This is where Leslie goes dark. He grabs her by the throat. He throws her head off the fucking side of the van. He's telling her what's up. And we've now got a little bit of information from the doctor telling us this guy isn't who you think he is. And now he's starting to show cracks. And I fucking love it. Tony.
Yeah, I mean, next to the explanation of the Ahab, which just had me rolling the first time I saw it, this is possibly my favorite scene in the whole movie, because he literally turned. You could see his expression. I rewound it to see, like, am I not seeing it? When he is outside waiting for them to come out of the diner after being confronted by Doc Halloran, he has a smile on his face, but he instantly turns. You see his face flash anger, grabs her, throws her up against the van. It's like, it was so shocking and so sudden that it just, this is who we're really dealing with. Yep. This is someone who can easily kill someone and can switch on a dime. He is dangerous. He is really not to be fucked with. And he just showed that. Yep. And I like the fact that the conversation that followed the scene, do we really want to keep doing this? Should we drop out of this? I mean, this is getting too much. This, like, we're about to cross lines. We've already seen one person killed. Do we need to keep going with this? I mean, we're part of this now. Do we want to do it? And they decided yes. Now, the scene in the diner with visiting Kelly, Kelly's exhausted. You can see it. She walks away from the table after, I'll go get your waters. and they're continuing a discussion, but the camera is placed just off center of Taylor, with Doc Halloran in the bottom corner, and he's watching it. He's looking directly at the camera at us, and it's uncomfortable, and you know it's going to be. He gets up, slowly makes his way over, and you feel the tension like, fuck, they just screwed up everything. And it's done so well in a way that Robert Englund only can. It's like he's so intense but theatrical but straightforward. It's like this weird combination of like overdone drama, but again, it fits perfectly for the scene, for the movie, and the character. And I loved everything about it.
Tony, that scene specifically, and I remember thinking this, when we go into the diner, the director makes a point of not letting you see the doc enough to completely 100% ID him. I thought I saw him in the background. He's blurred out a little bit. I'm like, was that Doc sitting in that booth back there? And that's before you get the shot from the table. That's right. Just when you go in the diner. And then we go at the table and he gives you a little bit more. You're like, I think that's him. And then of course he's going to get up and confront them. But yeah, really, the guy overdid, man. I mean that in a good way, He really paid attention to these scenes.
The big night is finally here. The kids are in the house partying, and Taylor and her crew are upstairs in a small room where Leslie is operating from. He leaves and kills the first two victims. As they listen to the noises of their death, Taylor and the film crew are suddenly struck by a moral dilemma. Unable to sit by, Taylor and the crew begin to leave. Leslie doesn't ask them to stay and wishes them well before returning to their farmhouse. However, Taylor can't turn a blind eye to this murder spree, and she and the cameraman return to the house and attempt to stop Leslie. Unfortunately, the murderer is several steps ahead of them at almost every turn. They realize that Kelly is not a virgin, and their attempts to escape are cut off at the pass with removed spark plugs and slashed tires. When Kelly breaks out a window and falls to her death, Taylor figures all bets are now off since Leslie's survivor girl is dead before the others. She and her crew are now part of the prey group. I'm going to save my real thoughts for this to the end because I don't want to ruin my alternate ending. But I have a little bit of a problem with this sudden attack of conscience on Taylor's part. Like, you already watched somebody die and you were still in. So it's like all of a sudden now it's a problem. But it's a small nitpick. That's it.
Let's be honest, okay? This is a satire, borderline a comedy. Yes. So obviously if this was a real like straight up slasher movie, I would have totally had a problem with this. The character didn't make sense because she's on board for doing, basically a snuff film and right from the get. And then suddenly they're like, whoa, we're playing with fire here. It's like, no, this isn't a revelation. It's going to come to you, 1, 2, 3 murders in. You're either signing up for this or you're not. Right. But I didn't have a problem with it because they're not saying take this fucking movie seriously. They're saying here's a fun story.
Well, I think really, they were questioning it really early on when he was explaining, well, I screwed I cut the branches a little bit. I took the head off the sledgehammer. It's like, don't you think that's kind of cheating? You're really you're stacking the deck against anyone beating you. He's like, well, that's my job.
Yeah.
And also he's so outnumbered.
But earlier in the movie, they make a point of him saying, I'm a magician. These are tricks. This is how a magician does his tricks. And that's what the director is saying. He's telling us this is why these human killers feel supernatural in all of these movies, because it's an illusion. It's an illusion. These are magicians of murder. Ooh, Tony, there's a movie right there. Let's write it. Magicians of murder. I love it. So this overly satire-driven account of what will transpire during the murder spree, as explained by Leslie, is great with lots of funny scenes. The boobs and, he's like, I'm telling this story. I want boobs in it. So it was fucking great. And again, the director is explaining away all the trope bullshit that happens in every slasher film. And this takes me back to so many movies and makes me laugh thinking of characters like Michael Myers screwing windows shut, or Jason, sabotaging a shovel handle so, the kids at Camp Crystal Lake can't kill him. And, you're thinking, man, this guy's made of iron. That handle just snapped off like a toothpick. No, he's already cut 3/4 of the way through it. It would have broken on your grandma's head. Just very well written. And finally, when Kelly falls to her death, my suspicion that Taylor is actually the final girl is seemingly more likely at this point. But again, I wrote this as I was watching it. I'm still not 100% sure. And that's good because I'm still in detective mode. I'm trying to figure out who's the virgin. So yeah, I mean, kudos to this guy. Really good so far.
Just the walkthrough of everything, how it's going to go down. You following it, and everything goes perfectly to plan until she opens the door to save Kelly, and she's riding in reverse cowgirl, and you realize you're not a virgin, you're a whore.
Yes.
All right, and then just the lines that follow. It's like you thought she was a virgin. What are you, stupid? It's like all her friends know she's like the town pump. You know, it's like it was just so funny to watch everything that he set up fall apart, but yet intentionally he knew this was going to go that way and set them up for it. Knowing, all right, well, they're going to try to run out the door. This is what I'm going to do when they run out the door. They're going to run over here. I knew they're going to run there, but now we didn't know the camera crew was going to be with them, but now they are. And again, planned it. So well written, so well executed.
It really is. It really is. And when you tack that budget onto it, even more so.
Leslie is picking off victims left and right, and Todd, one of the cameramen, makes a run for it to distract Leslie. But he meets his end before Leslie returns to finish the rest of the group off. In this small bit of a lull, Taylor realizes that she's a virgin herself, and she is the intended survivor girl, and has been all along. Leslie picks off everyone else, including Doc O'Halloran. I keep calling him O'Halloran, even though it's Halloran. I don't know why.
Sure.
It just sounds better to me for some reason.
It's because we're in Boston. O'Halloran, hey!
O'Halloran! Top of the morning to you.
That's right.
Leslie picks off everyone else, including Doc Halloran, before Taylor runs into the apple orchard. There she is stalked before she reaches the cider house. She and Leslie fight there before she presses his head into the apple press and burns the building down. As she watches it burn, she is joined by the last remaining crew member, Doug, and Doc Halloran, who has survived his injuries. The credits roll over CCTV footage of a morgue where a lone orderly rolls a body out of a fridge and begins work before the burned body of Leslie Vernon sits up. I know the movie had to end this way because despite the clever angles, this movie is following slasher movie tropes. So it's kind of following the rules. So this is kind of how it had to go. I was maybe hoping for something a little bit more clever, but I'm not really complaining. It was still pretty tight.
So now we get the final act, and the movie pivots to a more traditional bloody slasher flick dressed with satire. Up until now, we haven't seen a single drop of blood, so I'm still not sure if I'm watching a fake documentary with actors staying in character or a real snuff film, but that changes quickly here. And this is good storytelling because I can't wait for the inevitable twist ending, which we do get, Dylan, and it wasn't, groundbreaking, but we get it, and it's fine. When Taylor says goodbye to Leslie and obviously breaks his heart, I'm now 80% sure she's going to be the final girl. Then we get the scene with Kelly going full cowgirl, and the director doubles down on this idea. Now I'm really honing in. I'm like, I got this, but it's still not 100% telegraphed, leaving me just enough doubt to keep guessing, which is really good. It's really good because I'm so sure that I've got it that I'm on the case hot and heavy now, right? So I want to outsmart this guy. So if this wasn't satire, here's another one of those things like Dylan was talking about, with the girl, finally having this, I don't know if I want to be part of this. So if this wasn't 100% satire, I'd be bitching that 10 people should have no problem kicking one dude's ass holding a sickle. Like, you've got the whole high school football team there, the stoners. Like, how about this? We open the door and we take like a garbage can lid, we bum rush them, and, we fuck them up. No, let's not do that. But that's the fun of the movie. It knows what it is. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Finally, we get the revelation that Taylor is, in fact, the virgin, and I pat myself on the back because I knew it all along. Finally, we get the conclusion, and it was worth the wait as Taylor puts Leslie's head in a press in the style of Nikki from Casino, if you know, you know, before escaping with Freddy Krueger. I was disappointed that there was no big twist ending until Leslie's burnt body sits up, letting us know that Doc was wrong and Leslie is, in fact, a supernatural killer. Bravo. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with this movie.
I mean, you pretty much got all of it. I mean, that's the good thing, is following the by the numbers slasher, and her following the points that he wanted his survivor girl to do. She's got to, she's got to man up. She's got to do what she has to do. She's going to step up. She's going to shed her clothes, and she's going to shed her feminism, and she's going to take the manhood of an axe and she's going to basically take the power from me. She's going to take the masculinity from me, and she's going to basically take me down. That's what the Survivor Girl does, and she did that right by the steps. And the fact that they had his head in the press, and you hear the crack, like, all right, there's the death, but yet his mask was still on, very hard mask, didn't crack his head, cracked the mask. He had safety insurance in there. We already saw him when he was talking to her about getting ready to go. He's covering his face in the Preparation H mixed with fire retardant potion that he puts together. So if he gets cut, it constricts. If he gets punched in the eye, it doesn't swell up. It's genius of just explanation. So, of course, he didn't just cover his face. He covered his whole body in this fire retardant stuff. So he's not supernatural. He's smart.
Right.
So, again, another illusion. So, yeah, when the movie ends, the credits rolling, it's rolling over the scene like, all right, they're showing us something. Obviously, something's going to happen. And literally the last 2 seconds of the movie is him sitting up, and it goes to black. It's like, so well done. There we go. We don't need anything else. We know what's going to happen.
He was pretty crispy, though. He was pretty crispy.
He was a little
it
dark.
Felt supernatural to me. I don't know. It felt pretty well done.
Also, because we were watching the credits so that we could see what was going to happen, there was a funny little thing in there that it said, only one animal died in the making of this film.
That's fucking great. That's fucking great. A lot of those, you were talking about, some of the dialogue. Like, I really like the whole thing about him saying, the closet is like your mother's womb. And, there was it was fucking pretty good, man. Like
the symbolism of the slashers.
Yeah.
Opening the grove is a coming through the womb. It's coming through to, you're being born again as the survivor.
Yeah.
The old you is back here. Once you pass through this gateway, this is now your real new life.
It's so clever. The movie is so clever, man. None of the magic really came from the slashing and all that. That was just dressing on the cake. It was all in the way he told the story.
I'm so glad you guys liked it.
I loved it.
There's no one that I've ever showed this to that went, eh. It's always oh my God, that was so much friggin' fun. So I'm so glad you guys liked it.
But if I didn't understand what the director was trying to do, like make me call back to every slasher movie I had ever seen, I'd have been like, But
But you've seen enough that I knew you'd at least get it. People who haven't seen like Cabin in the Woods, people who haven't seen enough slashers aren't going to get it.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So that's it. We have broken down the movie for you all. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let's head over to the recasting couch and we'll recast this sucker. Obviously, I'm going to replace Nathan Beazle with one Jim Carrey because he would have been perfect. Tony, recast.
It's hard not to go that route, but I would have replaced Kelly with a mop because anyone would have done a better job of acting. And she was literally the worst performance in this entire movie. And unfortunately, she was the virgin, so she was a linchpin for a lot of scenes, and I felt like everything she did was less than community theater. Like, she was terrible. I'm sorry. It's my biggest complaint about this movie. Everyone else does a great job. She just seemed like she's in over her head in every scene.
Yeah, honestly, you could have taken that girl that played the supposed whore and put her into Kelly's role, and I think she would have done better because I thought she was a better actress.
Yeah, I mean, she looked good. She portrayed facial expressions well, but her line delivery, god awful. Sorry. In a great movie full of England and Bazels and everybody else, she couldn't keep up.
That's funny. I usually am one to pick on stuff like that, but it didn't stand out to me. She just didn't have a big enough role for it to bother me at all.
It bugged the shit out of me.
Yeah, when she's reading the article about the death of the Vernon family, she was talking like this, and I'm going, "Oh, good Lord, is this going to happen through the whole movie?" So I was glad that she had a small role.
I don't know, man. This guy that did this, he paid such attention to detail. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe he was saying, Final Girl is fucking stupid. I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. Delynn, did you want to recast this?
Yeah, so I recast Taylor with Billie Lourd.
Who's that?
That's Carrie Fisher's daughter. She was in American Horror Story. She was in Scream Queens. She was in a bunch of, so like you get her young enough, I think she would have crushed this.
Cool.
Yeah, she's got a good questioning face. She doesn't trust a lot, so she would have been good. That's actually good.
Yeah, good sarcasm face.
Yeah.
She got it from her mother.
As if we'd end the movie like that. Yeah.
Let's do the Scooby-Doo ending.
Good call.
Right, let's head over to the alternate endings. Tony, did you write an alternate ending for this?
I didn't because I love this ending so much. When it comes to alternate endings, unless I really, really can't stand the movie, I'm really happy with what usually is on the screen because there's no reason to take it any further. They did exactly what they needed to do. They left you with a possibility of a sequel, which
Yes.
bummed me out because I remember going to Rock and Shock 3 or 4 years after this came out, and they had a table and they were trying to crowdfund it, they were trying to kickstart it, and it never took off.
Nobody
They
wanted
did it
it.
for like
You don't need
every
it.
4 or 5 years. All the horror community got behind it, but they just never could raise the money for it. And it
Yeah.
sucks because the idea for it is really good.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I need another one. Kind of like Scream 2. I don't know if I needed a second one. This is just such a nice little treat, you know? I don't know if it would still have the same charm if I went back and visited part 2.
What's your alternate ending?
Delyn, you go first. What's your alternate ending?
Okay, so in my alternate ending, when Leslie kills the first two victims, Taylor is excited instead of being repulsed, to the point that she, as a researcher of all these classic slashers, because this is obviously her wheelhouse, tells him that he's doing it wrong, and she takes the mask and does it all better, leaving Leslie as her final kill.
Oh,
That's nice.
I like that.
That's nice. Good job. Good job.
Good.
That's what I was expecting to happen, and it never happened. And I was like, shit, I was so annoyed because that's what I was expecting to happen.
That was a really good alternate ending.
That's
I
good.
like it. All right, let me give you my alternate ending. It's short but sweet. The movie ends just the way we all saw it. But at the very end, Ashton Kutcher jumps out and says to Taylor, "You've been punked," and all the actors come out laughing.
Oh dear, that's showing your age. Ashton Kutcher on Punked.
And there it is. All right, guys. So that is it. We're going to go over. We are going to score this sucker. We're going to place it in infamousy. So this was a really fun play on a traditional slasher movie, dripping in satire with hints of Scream sprinkled into it. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So many of the tropes and unexplained things that happened were explained in a clever way. My rewatch score, 3.87. I thought it was dynamite. Tony, what you think?
I agree with everything you said. I felt that as a first time, majorly a first time, everybody's first major movie, aside from like, the Englunds and the Rubensteins. Everyone else, this is their first time really making something big, and they killed it. Like, if this is your first movie, like, how do you even top this? It's so well written. It's so well put together. Pacing of it, the director, editor got together. They were literally they were arguing back and forth. Should we add more comedy? Should we add more horror? It's like, it's just going to work. Just let it be.
Yeah.
Let it do its thing. People will pick up on it if they know. And they made every right choice. Like I said, aside from the final girl casting, this movie couldn't have done anything better, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I really liked everything about it, and I can't even say I watch every time it's on cable because it's never on. No one knows about this movie, and that sucks. It needs more. It needs more love. So this is definitely, every time someone's like, "Hey, what do you want to watch?" Like, have you ever seen this? No, I haven't seen it. We're gonna watch this, and I introduce people, and they have to then show it to people. So I mean, I'm going to give this a rewatch of. I'm going to be pretty high. I'm going to give it like a 4.89.
Nice. I like it. I like it. I could have gone into the fours with this, but I don't think it's something I would actually go back and watch again. I think if like horror was more my genre and this was something that like was a comfort food for me, like Spies Like Us or a movie like that, I think I would have definitely been in the low fours for sure. But with the budget and everything, it kind of is what it is. Delyn, score it.
I missed your number. What was your number?
I'm gonna bump it up just a little bit because I think I
You're
just talked
changing it
myself up.
midstream?
Just a little bit. I'm gonna go 3.99. 3.99.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So I went a little lower than you guys. I had not a ton of issue with it, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. I probably won't watch it again, but I gave it a 3.22 because it's a little bit better than average. But I don't think it's quite getting up into like a 4 territory for me.
All right, add them up. Where does this sucker land? I know it's going to be a little high for a movie that's got a budget of $250,000, but let's see what happens.
Okay, so it's 4.0333, and let me see where that lands it. That's pretty high.
It's a little high.
It is going to land it at number 45. It is right below Tombstone and right above The Crow and Batman. This seems wrong.
Yeah, this isn't as good as The Crow or Batman. This is like that foreign movie we did about the Santa Clauses. That was too high. Black Christmas, way too high.
No,
there's a few on
movies. Here for the genres that they are great movies.
They are.
Granted, when you put him against The Crow and things like that, yes, totally different sports. But at the same time, for what it is, for how we watched it, for how it made you feel watching it, it earned its place.
Yeah, well, that's when you're doing this, like these lists, you're always going to have this happen. Like last week on Violent Vinyl Radio, Kicks Blow My Fuse came in above fucking Permanent Vacation. So there you go. It doesn't always work. All right, so there you go, everybody. Next week on our sister podcast, Violent Vinyl Radio, we will be breaking down Faster Pussycat's Wake Me When It's Over. In my opinion, their best album. But there you go. So listen to that. That'll be homework.
Tony disagrees.
Go over and check that out.
Love the first album. First album.
Like I said earlier, we will be doing Desperado with original flavor Tony and Mikki.
No, this is original flavor Tony. How can you
Tony
not get that right?
Because I took a fucking edible and I'm fucked up now. I was good like quarter of the way in. It started to hit me. All right, we gotta go. Everybody, and grab my keys and get the hell out of here. Till next time, I just have one question for you. Hey, did you ever see that movie? See you next time.